to, I guess, the Will Mosley Hour. This is just a much more chill vibe. The next hour, we're going to try to do our best to answer questions around self-development. Got some lined up. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Who do I want to become in the next 5 years and why? I couldn't tell you 5 years out. But what I do know is that most of us think that the future holds the keys, versus realizing that most of what we do today, like literally, we have control a lot over our current existence, yet we don't take that opportunity. We don't say, look, let me go ahead and plan out my day. Let me schedule my day. Let me figure out what it is that I actually want in my day. Most of us don't do that, or at least I found that for me, I didn't do that for a long time. I thought the conventional road to success meant like climbing the corporate ladder, having a 9 to 5, and then getting praise and love and all that. And in a sense, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. Do that, vibe out. But if you're wanting more, if you're at a place right now where you're like, I want to be at a different spot, a different place, I think it's absolutely okay for you to have like ambitious goals and dreams and things like that, things to move you forward. But if you're unhappy with your current existence, I think that the answer is actually in the right now. What I mean by that is, like, I'll just give you for my own self, like I always have plans for what I'll be doing today, and then I also have plans for what I'm trying to build for 6 months or a year out. 5 years seems a little crazy, a little too far-fetched, and for the way that my crazy ass mind changes up shit. But if you, and I've talked about this many times, but if you really look at your schedule, like, what all in it don't you like? Like, are you like fighting with the wife and you're having a hard time? You're like, man, fuck all of this. Are you at a job where you're just like, this job is the worst, fuck this job? Are you mad at your kids, right? Are you mad at yourself? All those things, you can then say, okay, this is a thing and I can improve that. I can actually change that right now. And if you go into ChatGPT with any sort of problem, like, it is the best counselor, the best strategist. If you do that, like, you literally have power. You have time control. Like, so like, as far as goals go, like, I think it's great. Have those goals. But if you don't actually put in the inputs today to actually make those goals happen, those goals are just like, they're just dreams. They're pipe dreams. And then they're also frustrations, and they're just a means of you just getting frustrated with, one, your current existence, and then two, as days and days and days go by, your future existence. I think there's a couple different things you got going on. You got like the tiger that's always chasing you, called bills and taxes and all the things that are required to live. So there's that thing that keeps you motivated to just keep running faster. And then you also have like your personal, how you feel like you are in life and status or in aspiration, and that can fuck with your head too. Like, not only do the bills like come at you, but then your own personal achievement of what you feel like you should be at or where you should be at, that can mess with you. And then also what you believe other people believe of you. I'm getting a little too meta, but like the opinions of your kids and your friends and your family and your spouse and all that stuff, that piles up. And all these things can be things that actually stop you from getting to where you actually want to be in 5 years. I think letting a lot of that judgment just go, you'll find a lot of freedom there. At least I know that I found a lot of freedom letting a lot of that go. I used to struggle a lot with like my, up to like this year or whatever, with like my mortality, and just like thinking like, my God, like I'm so far behind the curve of where I feel as though my peers, or where I want to be. I feel so far behind. My God, if you just look at how much I need to make, or what I need to do to catch up to what I'm supposed to be at this age, or what this book says, or what these other people are doing, like, my God, that's a good way to be depressed. It's a great way, highly suggest, great way to be depressed. And I used to think a lot about how, like, if I die, like, what happens to my wife, what happens to my kids? And I'm not ready for that. I'm not prepared yet. I don't have enough money yet. I don't have enough, I haven't spent enough time yet. And I realized, like, what was happening is I was trading the now for this future that I was trying to work towards, this never-ending future that I was trying to work towards, where I was legit, I think at one point I was legit doing like 18-hour days, just living a miserable existence, trying to catch up and trying to say, okay, well, I need to have X in savings, or I need to have all this done, and I need to whatever, like, just working my entire existence away, and then doing that for the people that I'm not even spending time with, my wife and my kids, or even myself personally, like hanging out with myself, you know what I mean? And I was like, there's got to be something else to this. And there really is. Like, if you just drop the, I have to have this X amount by this time, if you just drop all that, if you say, you know what, and I think another part of that, and we're not quite to this yet, but like, a good part of that was me realizing that, like, wealth is a ratio, not an actual goal, not an actual amount to get to. And what I mean by that is, like, if you literally just change your wealth, your income and expense ratio, you're fucking set. If you just continue to do the same thing over and over again, right? You just go to work, nothing changes, you're hanging, you're chilling. If you just change that ratio, instead of it being a 1-to-1, right? You make $3,000 a month and then you spend $3,000 a month. If you change that ratio to being, I make $6,000 a month and I spend $3,000 a month, like, every month that you work, every week that you work, every day that you work 2 days. You literally make 2 days worth of runway. Because that's all it is. Money's just time. We've talked about this many times, but like, money is just like bottled time. When you're at the lowest of low leverage, you're trading your time, right, for money, right? You're getting paid that money. When you're level 2, you're trading your money for other people's time. And then when you get to like level 3, you're trading your money for more money, giving loans or investments or whatever, because your money now can make you more money, and so once I realized that, like, wealth was just this ratio that I could actually just have today, that just, like, that broke everything, because I realized that I don't have to work to get to this goal 5 years from now. I can just do the actions today that automatically make it all happen. By me saying, okay, my expenses are $2,000 or $4,000 or whatever your expenses are, if I reduce these expenses, if I get these expenses down, by cutting out some of this stuff, that means that every single day I work 2 days. Like I said, it's not exactly there, but if you recognize that's the goal, and that you can actually just achieve that by making the decisions of like, I'm not going to eat out as much, or I'm going to change, and it's not even as much, it's just literally, if you, let's just say for instance, by the way, I'm not trading out my coffee, but we're making this example. If you drink Dunkin' every single day, like, instead you can say, I'm going to drink Dunkin' every other day. Or another option might be like, instead of me getting the $6 thing, I'm going to get the $3 thing. All those are literally cutting things in half. You still get to have the joy of it. You may just change the time frequency of how often you have the thing, but you still get the thing. You don't have to rob yourself of the thing. You get it. You're just changing like the frequency or the quantity of how much you get, or maybe downgrading the product. But it's not about like this life of like, that just sucks and that's terrible. Not at all. Like, thinking about the future, I think the future is great to think about the amount of work required to do something amazing and how much it takes to do that. Allows you to focus in, allows you to just hone in on the few things that you can do. Because if you're all over the place, you're just spreading all your energy everywhere, and you won't get really the results that you're probably hoping for. But realizing like every single day, like, you have a vote. You vote with your 24 hours. Whether you think you do or you don't, you just vote. You literally say, I'm voting to have 5 hours of sleep today. I'm voting to have 8 hours of sleep today. Great. I'm gonna have 5, and again, just make it, all this is repeatable. You can change it at any given point in time. You can change this. That's what's beautiful about a calendar. That's what's beautiful about all this. You literally could be like, you know what? I don't need 8 hours of sleep. I'm good with 7. And it may be that 7 is not enough for you, and you can then change it again. Like, you have complete control over all this. We like to think that everyone has control over us, and that's because we've cast our power away. I casted my power away for so long, for fucking so long, so much of my life. I'm 36 now. Majority of my life I cast and gave to other people, cast my freedoms away. And let me start with the first one that you think is like fucking you up, because it probably actually isn't fucking you up, okay? Most of us, I wouldn't say most of us, but a lot of people, they really don't like their job. They're like, I hate my job. This is the worst. My boss is the worst. Fuck this. This is the worst. I can't believe I'm wasting all my time. I can't believe I have to go into this job. I can't believe all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, there absolutely are some jobs that are just fucking shit, okay? So this is not to say that there are not those jobs. But generally speaking, most of the jobs today are actually fucking wins, bro. And what I mean by that is, like, if it's a career job, if it's anything in some sort of a career job, like, you're getting paid to learn on someone else's half. You get to fuck up on their dime. And I tell you this coming from someone that's like literally tried to launch a business and build a business up for years and years and years and years and years. Like, they've already figured out an equation of how to make money, and they're willing to place their bets and just pay you regularly to do work for them. Like, that's the fact that business in general has made it to that point. It's a miracle. So you're already working with a miracle company. Like, if they've already gotten to the point where they're like, we can have employees and we can actually promise some hourly rate. We can actually do that. Like, the chances of that shit actually happening are really low. They really are. And it's not easy. You think that the boss has it the best. You think the person that started the company, that founded the company, has it so Gucci. Most business owners are slaves to their own business. Like, on some real. Some people make it out. Like, the 1% of the 1% make it out of their business, and they actually are able to figure out how to hire a CEO and hire people to also work on their behalf so that they can vibe out and like have a vacation. But I promise you, they weren't vacationing for 5 years, 10 years. They put in the work, and even though you don't see it, even though it looks like these people are like slacking off, they gave like their sweat, their heart, their blood, like to the game of building a business. All the long hours and not getting paid, trying to get clients. You as an employee, if you're in this position, you don't have to worry about, you know, customer acquisition, unless maybe you're in like sales or whatever and shit like that. But like, most of the jobs out there are just like, hey, press these buttons, be nice, do customer service, and we'll pay you a regular rate. We'll pay you regularly. We promise we'll pay you. We will pay you every couple weeks. So that's the employee job. Yet we want to bitch and complain about how they have control over our life. They're actually doing us a solid, because what's on the other side of that is uncertainty. And I promise you, being certain and bored is much better, and getting paid consistently is much better than being uncertain and fucking frolicking in the water, drowning in the water of like not knowing what to do and trying to keep it all together, and then also not getting paid regularly. That's entrepreneurship. So employment is actually it's actually beautiful. They do the whole taxes thing, all that stuff is great. You couldn't tell me that. You definitely couldn't have told me that, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I would have been like, yeah, you're crazy, cool, bro. But at the same time, you do give up things, okay? You do give up your time freedom in a certain way, meaning I have to show up at this time because everyone else is showing up at this time for these days, okay? So you give up that part of your life in a sense of that control of being able to pick that spot. You're like, I'm locked into this 8 to 5 or this 9 to 5 or whatever. And that's okay, because you then have control over all the other hours. All the other hours are yours to control. Now, most people then cast away the next biggest one. I'll come back to this in just a second, but they cast it away to like their SO, or they cast it away to like all this other stuff. Meaning they, and it's just, I don't know, man. I just feel as though there's just a lot of like victimhood where and I say this from my own self, like this was me, but it's not really as bad as it is. Now, I get it feels really bad when you are at a job and you're working, but you don't feel as though you're making enough money, right? And then you also have the tiger called bills chasing you. Stressful as fuck. But I'm gonna tell you what's worse than having a consistent paycheck with a boss you don't like with the tiger chasing you. Switch over to self-employed work. Self-employed work is you still have the bill, the contract, the tiger of bills chasing you, but then you are responsible for getting your own contracts, or you are responsible for doing, what's called gig work, where you're doing Uber or, DoorDash, Walmart, Amazon, all that stuff. You are now responsible. So you can't cast blame to like, I didn't get paid, or I'm so tired, I can't believe this. Like, you now have to go out and not only deal with the bills, but you then have to go hunt, which is what really it is. When you're employed, you're in the zoo, right? They feed you. You may not like the food that they feed you, but they feed you but you get it regularly all the time, always. And as long as you don't fuck that up and do a terrible job and like get fired, you get fed. When you are doing contract work, you are hunting. There's no guarantee of money unless you go out and get it. There's no doing half-ass work and then getting paid to do it. You can do half-ass work, but you're gonna get half-ass pay. And that right there means that if you do half-ass work, you get half the check, and that shit sucks. So you do have control over your time, which is a beautiful thing. You have control over exactly when you clock in, clock out. You don't have to worry about like your girl being pregnant and needing to take a doctor's appointment. You have control over all of that. So both of them have their pros and cons. You're in complete control of time, but you got to go out and hunt. Or there's a specific block of time called 40 hours a week, called the regular business, the regular 9 to 5 or whatever your time block is that you're just locked into. That you have to say, this is for the work. Everything else, I can navigate around this and make it happen, which is still a lot of freedom. And to remind us, this is why you cannot give Will like 20 questions to answer. I'll just fucking deep dive. I will deep dive on one question forever. We'll just literally deep dive and deep dive and fucking go all the way down the rabbit hole and shit. The original question, by the way, if you're, you need a refresher, a reminder, this is just chilling with Will. This is literally, I usually use the whiteboards and stuff like that, but I'm thinking the evening talks are more just like chill talks, because it feels easier for me, and I can also like double up and make an hour worth of content. So the question was like, where do I see myself in 5 years? And then I took that back to saying that, like, yes, looking at 5 years could be important, but really it's about today that is important, because every single day then adds up to the 5 years. Every decision that you make on the day-to-day leads to that. So if you don't get your 24 hours straight and fixed and worked on, you're not going to end up where you want to be. So let's cut it at the core. Let's cut it at the knees or whatever. Like let's hit it right there. And so I say all that to say that, like, there's employment, there's self-employment, and then there's like entrepreneurship. Because self-employment technically is like entrepreneurship, but I think like the in-between caveat of like gig work type stuff, you technically have a big ass contractor called Walmart that still goes out and gets the leads. They still have the customers. They're the marketplace. They are, you're working as a driver. They're the marketplace, and the customers also need something from the marketplace. And so you're able to just have consistent orders. I say consistent, it fluctuates. And then you have entrepreneurship, which is just like, you go out and do it all. You do all the shit. You want to have a massive migraine, highly recommend signing up for entrepreneurship. Some good shit. It is some good shit. It'll teach you a lot though. I enjoy the lessons of I really do. I really enjoy the lessons of it. But goddamn, when you're going through it, the shit it hurts hitting your head every goddamn time. So where this is going is just like, you can, and I say I'm just talking to myself. You do what you want. This is just Will having a will to will with himself about old like beliefs that I had, and now new realizations. And I'm sure that we'll have other realizations in another week or month or a year that'll probably be like, yeah, that Will from a year ago, he didn't know what he was talking about. This is how it works. You just learn and learn and learn. We're talking about time freedom, okay? Time freedom is like, you cast away your freedoms to work because you think the boss is controlling you, but they're not really even controlling you. And then you cast away your freedoms to, a lot of times, at least this is for me, like, I just was caught up in this people pleasing, or trying to be the best of whatever, I don't know, like with my wife. I love my wife and like we vibe. But I feel as though I would sacrifice all the things that I thought that all the things I wanted to do, and then in exchange for what the things that I thought she wanted me to do, and all of it was wrong. She was not the problem 99% of the time, I promise you. It was me. Like 99.9% of the time. And don't get me wrong, your SO can be the problem. But most of the time, almost all the time, it actually is you. And this is what I found with myself. I was the actual problem. When you give away your power, when you give away your freedoms, when you try to be, when you don't actually carve out time for yourself or for what you want to do, it then gets replaced by other people's things. And that's the nature of things, you know, as a parent. Like if you're a parent 24/7 and you never carve out that block of time for you, you are forever a 24/7 parent. And my shit just really stemmed early on, you know, wanting to be accepted, you know, wanting to be loved, having just not really having good I just had so many expectations or requirements, I guess, you know, for my wife, unsaid, whatever, just like all that stuff. And so I would spend a lot of my time arguing. You know, we've been together for 13 years, almost 14 now, arguing over stuff that doesn't matter. $3 questions. Arguing about what you should do for me or what I should do for you, or how, like all that stuff. And that, whether that is your time being controlled or your energy being burned, either way it goes, it robs your time. It takes away from your time. And so you gave your 8 hours, you did your servitude to work, and then you go home and you argue with your SO. And not only does that fuck up your 2 hours of arguing, but then it fucks up your next day and your next day. And then you repeat the cycle. So all of a sudden you're in this angry state, not a happy state, like an angry existence forever. Because you just continue to repeat. And that's not a vibe. That shit's not a vibe at all. Arguing, and I will say this probably until I'm dead. The biggest, you want to set cash on fire, you want to set your time on fire, you want to set your relationships on fire, you want to fuck up your entire life, like argue. Just do that. Just start. That's all you have to do. All you have to do. I feel very strongly about this. Other people might feel differently. But like, I really think, don't get me wrong, you can use anger as fuel, okay? Anger, some real shit. Like, you could be so mad that you're like, fuck everybody, I got this, I'm gonna do it. You can actually, being angry can fuel you, okay? But you're in an angry existence. You're so mad at everybody else. You're like, how dare they? I'm so fucking mad. That's not the place I want to be, okay? So like arguing, I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure it out in my relationship. It took so long to figure out. And I can't give like the whole magic pill shit, but it's like a lot of things we argue about are non-issues. A lot of things that we argue about are like, they don't actually have to happen at all. There's so many things. A lot of arguing happens because of control. You were supposed to do this. You should have did that. Why didn't you do that? Like, a lot of that stuff happens there. A lot of it happens with expectations. Oh, my wife should fuck me, you know. Oh, how, like, why didn't you, like, why aren't you in a good mood right now? I don't get it. Oh, you should go, you know, yeah, you're fucking just managing the entire household, but you also should go to work. Those things can completely fuck you up, right? And so I think the easiest thing, at least within, you know, spouse and stuff like that, is really understanding like the responsibilities, who has what, and then you own it. Okay, if I'm saying, if you're like, yo, I want to be your housewife and vibe out, or you're like, yo, I want to go out and work and you stay home, or you're like, yo, let's do shit 50-50, I'm gonna do this, we're gonna do daycare, whatever, like, figure out what the agreement is. And it needs, you know, it has to work for both of you. None of this, you're gonna do this because this is what we said, or this is what I said, and if you don't like it, fuck you. That's not gonna work. In our dynamic, like, Laura loves being the housewife. She's a vibe. She kills that shit. She does it so much, so much better than me. I come home and like everything is just spotless. Kids are happy, babies vibing, chilling. Like, I know that stuff's not easy. And you would have never heard me say or think like, oh yeah, I want you to be a housewife. Early on, you know, because I'm a lot about like 50-50 or whatever, but we didn't really have the right conversation early on in our relationship. And so like I just put these assumptions and made all these different assumptions without actually having the real talk of like, where are the shared responsibilities? What are our responsibilities? And so whenever this is where a lot of the arguing would come from, whenever I had a shortfall or shortcoming with going out and doing contract work, oh man, we're not making enough, all of a sudden that's a you problem. Well, that's a me problem. If I'm the person supposed to be going out and making the money and bringing it home, and then you're taking care of all the home front, if I'm not bringing in the money, that's a me problem. That's not a you problem. And I would make it a her problem. And that shit wasn't right. Not at all. Mad fights about that shit. fucking bad fights about that. Highly recommend doing that. Mess up your whole relationship. So figure out where the responsibilities are. If you are responsible for taking out the trash, and you are responsible for taking the kids to school, and you're responsible for going to work and doing those things, those are the weights that you carry. Those are not your partner's weights to carry. You may talk to your partner and be like, hey, this is tough, but don't put that on them. The agreement was the agreement. And when you're having a hard time with your job, don't make it their job as well, because they already got weights to fucking carry. You're like loading up all your stuff on top of them, and like, fuck. And guess what? When you argue, you guys are tied at the fucking hip. You are tied. So when you lose, I lose. When I lose, you lose. And that's why it's very important that we cohesively keep this engine moving. If you burn out, if I burn out, a lot of times that's going to residually hit you and impact you. So we have to make sure to take care of each other and figure out how, like, if I see that you're having a hard time, oh, what's going on? Man, I really want some DoorDash because I'm fucking dying here. Okay, boom. Worth it. Order it. Good. Laura, I've been out working 80 hours a week straight. I'm working 100 hours a week. By the way, like, we actually run this shit up. We do, let me tell you, how many hours do we do? Let's see. We're doing right now the current system is 3 12s and 1 4. So every 4 days we're doing 40 hours. So we'll just call it like every, so roughly about 80 hours. And that's not like I'm a man, I got this. It's just like, if I'm doing 80 hours, guess who else is doing 80 hours? My wife. So we're really collectively doing 160 hours. So like a good way to fuck your shit up is like if we have to put in 160 hours because you're on the home front and I'm out on the whatever, like, if you want to argue, it's gonna throw your momentum off. It's gonna mess up the money flow. It's gonna mess up so much stuff. Again, highly recommend. Time freedom. This is where we're at. You know, this is all about 5-year projections and shit. If the work has to be done when you go to work, I'm serving and doing the work that I need to do. I'm trading my time for money. Now, again, like we said, there's levels. You can get to another level where you actually are able to pay other people money for their time, and then they do things on your behalf, which actually can make you money. Won't get into that. But there's that, and then you also have like the relationship that you have. And if you are arguing constantly in your relationship, you have literally wasted all the time that you have. So stop arguing. Realize that like the man's not fucking you over at work, because like the fact that anybody's willing to pay you anything, like, I'm not saying that there's not hard jobs out there. There's plenty of hard jobs out there. But the fact that you can get a paycheck in trade of your time, like, the grass is not greener on the other side of business. It is much harder. You take profits home. And yes, once you get to a certain level, it's like a fucking rapper status. Once you get up there, sure, upside is tremendous. There's reasons why people are entrepreneurs. But it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of time. So those are 2 ways that you cast, or I've cast my control of my time away to being salty about work and being mad about the work that I have to do. That's a waste of time. Don't do that. And then arguing with my SO. As far as my kids go, it's not in the exact just one-to-one area. It's more like, if kids are constantly they need you for a lot of things, you know, because they depend on you. But the thing is a lot of us, we don't draw boundaries as to when those requests can be made, because probably a lot of out of guilt, right? Like, I need to always be there for my baby. I need to always make sure they're good. I need to buy them all the things. I need to like all this stuff. Which, like, don't get me wrong, like, vibe out with your kid. But for me personally, I found that I was the best father when I finally decided to time block the time that I hung out with my kids. And this was a bit of a harsh reality for myself, because like, it makes you come in contact with like the actual amount of time that you hang and vibe with your kids. Because a lot of us as like parents, we like to think like we give them a lot of time, or they should have all this time, and we really want to do that. But if you really break down like your day-to-day of like how much time you actually give like to your SO and to your kids, like, you just really write it down. Like, I sleep for this amount of time, I go to work for 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever. And then there's, you know, let's just take the 8-hour example very quickly. Let's say you sleep for 8 hours and then you work for 8 hours. That's 16 hours. That means that you now have collectively 8 hours of time to juggle between your kids, your spouse, you, maybe your family. I don't, you know, that's a touchy subject. Family, and then personal development, like going to the gym or yoga or activities or kickboxing, whatever that is. And then you also have you also, if you are anything like me, you're probably also trying to build a business or start a YouTube channel or something like that, build something else. And you really break it down, there's not actually that much time. And I'm not saying that there's not that much time. There's a lot of time that we have collectively over the span of our life, but like on the reality, like, you're probably spending maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 hours with your kids a day. And some might be like, that's a lot of time, that's great, but some parents might feel as though that's not a lot of time. I know that when I did the math, like, I didn't do it like on the collective scope of like how much together at first. I just thought to myself, fuck, I got, at the time 5 boys, we have 6 boys now. I thought on the collective scope, I'm like, okay, if I got 5 boys and if I have 2.5 hours that I'm spending with my boys, that's really only like 30 minutes a piece with them a day. And I'm like, I spend 10 hours working a day. So I do like the comparison, and I'm like, that's a 20x that I'm spending comparatively to work to hanging out with one of my kids. And you're like, fuck. You're like, God damn. You're like, whoa. You're like, whoa. You want to make yourself feel like a terrible parent, do that real quick. You're like, you know what? I spent this much time at work every day, and this is how much time that I spend with my kids. Highly recommend, do that. Make yourself feel terrible. I had to come into grips with that though. And be like, yo, if I only can spend, 2 hours or 3 hours a day with my kids overall, all together, like, then it's gotta be really good time. It's gotta be good shit. You know what I mean? And once I had that moment where that shifted, I was much more intentional with how I showed up for them. Before, remember, we're talking about taking control of your time here. So it leads to the yellow brick does lead back somehow. It would be all over the place. Hey, Dad, can you do this? And I'd say yes. Hey, Dad, can you do this? Hey, yes. Hey, Dad, can you do this? Yes. Wife's like, hey, Will, can you do this? Yes. All over the place. And so I actually made a whole video about the chaos of requests, I think, or something like that on the YouTube channel. But I would be on auto response and responding mode. And I thought that might be a better way to handle things, or maybe I just never made a system for it. But I tell you, that was not fun. I always felt like I was getting pulled in different directions. I'd be thinking about how to make a vlog, and then now I need to respond to this. I'd be thinking about doing this, and now I have to respond to that. That's not fun. It's hard to get like that focus, intentional time when you're doing that. So I time block, very simply. I time block my time. When we have brotherhood time, we have dad time. We now have a gentleman's club or grooming club, where like we work on our hygiene, brushing our teeth and stuff like that. And I will say also, if you're contracting, okay, can't do this maybe exactly when you're employed, but if you're an entrepreneur or you're self-employed, there's this thing called FaceTime. I just recently started doing this, okay? Crazy. But I don't want to say that don't use FaceTime to say replace hanging and being with your kids, but you can absolutely supplement some of it, right? So for instance, we do brotherhood time first thing when they get home, then we do dad time, and then I go back out to work, okay? And with the work time, I would just do the work that I'm doing, but I realized, I said, wait a second, I can FaceTime my wife. Again, this is the wife time too. I can FaceTime my wife, and I can also FaceTime my kids. So they get me for that 2 to 3 hours or whatever block of time right there. And then later on in the evening, while I'm doing this work, again, if the work is something that requires like deep focus, maybe like try to figure out the time when you're doing more like work that doesn't require that much energy and focus, I can FaceTime them and talk to them. And that too counts as building a relationship. And so once I did that, I realized after I put out those fires, I said, huh, I guess I am in control of every minute of every day. I guess I can change my calendar to fit every part of my day. I guess that I do have complete, when the fuck did I wake up and have complete control over all of my time. Now, some might argue that because you have to go to work, you don't have control over all your time. But the truth of the matter is, it's like either way it goes, like you may be doing something for Bob, the boss, or be doing something for Walmart, the the corporate giant, or at some point, it's all just levels. You may get to the point where you're doing something for yourself. But either way it happens, you're going to do work. So the work in the beginning is probably because that fucking Bill Tiger is just chasing you, okay? Bill Tiger's still chasing me, I can tell you that much. Still coming for the throat. But it doesn't feel as stressful. But eventually in time, you may then build that runway that we talked about, that 2-to-1 runway or 3-to-1 runway in wealth generation, where you don't actually have to work, say, maybe as hard, or you're not working because the tiger's chasing you. You're working because you're like, either I'm bored and I want to do something, or there's a goal that I want to meet, which kind of comes back to that 5-year plan or whatever question. And at that point, like, what the fuck else are you going to do with your time? Like, yes, there's hanging out with the fam. Yes, those allocations might get a little bigger, right? Hanging out with the fam and hanging out with the wife. But most of us just want to do stuff. And so even if when you get to the end of the yellow brick road, you're still going to do work. So why am I mad that I'm working for someone else, doing someone else's bidding, when I know that by the end of it, I'll just be working for myself, doing my own bidding, but it's still going to be me doing some stuff. And when you're self-employed, like I am, or contract or whatever, you can literally listen to podcasts all fucking day. You can listen to chess breakdowns all day. You have mental freedom. That's something you don't specifically have all the time in employment. Once the tiger is not chasing you and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to die, you might have a little bit more mental freedom on self-employment, where you're like, I can listen to an audiobook at any point in time. I can take a break right now. I can go home and cuddle up to my wife and be like, Jesus Christ, thank God. I'm not even gonna go there, but Jesus, like, I can just cuddle up with the wife. We can vibe out. It doesn't mean that you neglect your work, right? I got responsibilities, and like we said, Laura takes care of the house. I'm responsible for the security. And so it's my job to make sure that the bills are paid. And so I know how much work I have to do and whatever, and it may fluctuate up and down and up and up and down, or whatever, because it's contract stuff. But I know that I'm responsible for that. And once you feel like you're responsible for something and not being forced to do something, it changes your mood, it changes your attitude of how you approach it. And I think that might be key, because for a long time, like, I was not a fan of doing like gig work, like going out and doing Uber, going out and doing DoorDash, going out and doing Walmart. This is after COVID or whatever, when I was after I was laid off from New Human. And I was mad. I was angry. I was like, I had this career and now I have to do this. I was so fucking mad. And I had that anger. I literally had that anger for like probably 2 years straight. Mad at them laying me off, mad at having to do this, mad at having to start over, mad at everything, mad at my wife, right? Because it's her fault, like, just mad. And then deep down inside, I was also facing my own demons of like, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I am this, maybe I'm that, right? Like, maybe I deserve this. maybe I should have did things differently, right? All the things. And it's all there. But the beauty of the thing is like we said, you literally can change this shit today. You literally could say, today, I actually have full control over my time. Now, it may take a little bit of time to build out the systems, okay? It may take a little bit of time to get the kids used to saying, okay, I used to have full control over all your time and requests over your time, but now, like when it's from, 3:30 to 5:30 or whatever, or 3:30 to 6 or whatever the time is, like that is when I hang out with you. And then also that means that now then you don't see me or hang out with me for the rest of the day. It may take some time to kind of get that get okay one with yourself, and then also like get them to help them understand that like when we're in this time, like this is intentional. And oh, by the way, at any point in time, you can FaceTime me, you can call me at any time that you need me. Okay, I got you, I'm here for you. But dad needs to go out and work. Dad needs to go out and pay these bills. Dad needs to provide security for the family. So though you have those honest talks, and then with the spouse, it definitely was a thing where like I had to figure out like, oh, I'm only spending an hour with my wife a day, or oh, I'm only spending 2 hours with my wife a day. I'm like, damn, really? And that's kind of hard to like think about. You're like, fuck, 2 hours? Really? An hour? Really? But it's what it is, and you have control over that. You might, I want to spend 4 hours with my spouse, non-negotiable. Done. You can do that if that's something that you want to do. You just have to balance. It's a balancing act of like, how much work do I have to do to make sure the bills are paid? Non-negotiable dad, non-negotiable spouse. And then after that, I want to build a business. After that, I want to go to the gym. After that, I want to go see a movie. After that, like, you plan it all out, you figure it out, and then you literally go to Google Calendar, or I use iMessage, the iCal, and put it in there. And once it's in there, do it. And if it doesn't work for you, just change it around. It's okay. Every day, don't feel bad if like you make a schedule and it doesn't exactly fit completely like you feel like it should. Like, don't, like, you have control over your time every minute. And the thing is once you realize I have control over all of my time, you'll realize that like being this person in the future, you've already changed into this person. You already actually get to live the life you want to live. Yes, there's a little more convenience, right? My goodness, the bills are paid double, triple, quadrupled up, right? We're already paid up on that. Yes, we have this buffer, this safety. Yes, we're going on more trips. Yes, we get to go on little, more, like, yeah, but it's the more. Like, don't, like, it's just like you're just kind of upgrading. It's okay, that's fine. But the biggest upgrade is controlling all of your time. Being in control of your time. And this is not being in control of other people's time, okay? Like, don't, like, get that twisted. Like, I don't tell my wife what to do. She vibes out, she does her thing. We align on some of our goals of what we need to do, but I let her cook. She be vibing. She be fucking shit up. And I'm like, damn, you did that? She's like, yep, did that. I'm like, okay. Like, get aligned on maybe the 2-3 big things that got it, like, okay, we got to pay the mortgage. Okay, I'm going to be doing 12s. Okay. I'll be here. Okay. And then she has freedom of her day. Yes, there's certain responsibilities that she has, right? But again, once you know what the shared responsibility, like the responsibilities are, like you kind of accept, you're like, okay, cool, these are the responsibilities. But then everything outside of that or in between that, she listens to her murder podcast and does her, like, all those things. She has complete control over that. And if she needs something, like, let me know. Try to figure out, make it happen for you. So many people try to control everybody else's time versus being in control of their own time. Coming back to the premise, the thesis of this this question, which was, who do I want to become in the next 5 years and why? I think the only thing that I can really say for the next 5 years is deeper relationships with my kids, deeper relationship with my wife, growing the YouTube channel, 100,000, 1 million, all that. That's all just leverage. I would still be making videos, you know what I mean? So it's just a level of the level, you know what I mean? I'm already doing this. It's just like that leverage you then have when you build an audience. When you build an audience, you then can monetize, and you can have sponsorships, and then you can build courses and all the da 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 da. But it's still more and more of the same thing what this is. It's just having more control over my time. Right now, technically, like we said, we have to go out and work and do this stuff, and we run 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours. Maybe in 5 years, the leverage might be that we only have to do 2 hours of work, and then the rest of it is more of like, okay, what's next? More travel. I imagine it'd be interesting because we'll have a couple teenagers. But when I got coming back to that mortality thing, when I got like real with my mortality, I realized that I wasn't showing up today, and that's why I was afraid. I wasn't showing up today. I was sacrificing showing up for today for tomorrow, tomorrow's goals. I'm going to work forever and all the time and always to make sure that my family is financially secure. That way, if I die, they'll be okay. It's not true. If you never teach someone how to fish, they'll eat up all the fish, and then they're going to be in a worse spot. So now, today, every single day, I can teach my kids how to fish. I can teach my kids about money. I can teach my kids about relationships. I can teach my kids about accountability. I can teach my kids about being good brothers to themselves. That's what brotherhood's all about. I can teach them good hygiene. So that when I die, I'm out. That's okay. I don't know. A couple things that we need to do, though, to make sure the wife's okay. It's let's get some life insurance, right? So you get some money. Make sure you get some money. And we got Social Security. I'm sure that'll help also. And stop living for tomorrow. Just live today. Have goals, have ambitions, build something big. But realize your today is your today. All right, take care, guys. Peace.